It was just a bunch of like college students, and they were all written like that. I don't think it was too bad, but they were written terribly. It's weird how like people have actually really started caring about writing since all this woke shit occurred.
Yeah,
Right?
and
Like
I think the
quality of writing.
conversation is not too one-sided either. I don't think it's not just like there's actually a very good balance. I think if you
Terrible.
ignore the bigots who try and sort of step their toes in and be like, look at this woke trash. I think there are genuinely people on like
trying to steal my
who are
kids.
still like not against those people, but they're still calling out sort of the I guess floundering sort of writing where it's just clearly just this is not the way you should be going about this. And I think we need to call them out because otherwise they're just going to end up writing, first of all, writing stuff that is overly preachy and sort of doesn't reach people who aren't even bigoted, right? You know, I think that's the danger that Veilguard's already in, right? Even like, people who just aren't bigoted and don't, you know, they're completely okay with all this stuff, but it's still kind of like, I think this writing's terrible from what I've seen. And I've obviously no problem with these people. Those people.
Thing is, it's really interesting because the way it is perceived really changes a lot. Let's just say, for example, that this is written by the left, right, or the far left, or just it makes it easier if we just claim it like that, right? Then imagine that a game of equal content but was written by the right was made.
Oh, it'd be so obnoxious.
Or far right. Yeah, but it would be like the same thing but different like things. Like I don't know, like say for that thing for example, there would be like some casual racist shit mentioned. Like they wouldn't think anything of it or care about it. And it'll be like just tonally slightly racist.
There would be
like
a character who gets like completely lambasted for like having had an abortion at one point. Like they just get scolded for it. And it was completely justified as well, or something.
Or like it's just like part of the laws that if you abort, you're a murderer.
Yeah, in this world, it would be like an extremely right-wing world as well. It'd basically just be South Africa.
Yeah, but it's just interesting that depending on your perspective, I mean, like this left stuff, like that is seen as progress, right? That like this is how we are moving forward as a society.
By progressives, people who are like label themselves as progressive, but there are people who are not radicals and aren't progressives, like me.
Yeah,
right. Just to label myself,
which see it as being kind of just as like radical of speech as if it was written by the other side's more extreme views.
It's just as damaging to a healthy digestion of new concepts as like extreme right people are dangerous to digesting new concepts because they basically try and replace them with really outdated concepts, and so it's like a really poor like implementation and sort of attempt to hang on to both very like poorly thought out new concepts and really outdated old concepts. I think there's a middle ground that unfortunately not many people can really reside in. I still think I know which one I prefer, and that's the left, to be honest. Out of the two extremes, but I would never group myself with like really extreme views, no matter what. But
for example, I think Baldur's Gate could be accused of being woke, but I think it is just.
Baldur's Gate is woke. It's just not like
No, Baldur's Gate is now, right? It is it like most of its characters are like bi, right? At least like all of them.
Every character,
a man or a woman.
I think every character is pansexual except Isabel and Dame Aelin, who are just lesbians.
Yeah, lesbian couple. I'm sure there's plenty of other ones. I mean, Shadowheart was a lesbian, obviously.
Oh, sorry. There's also our honor mode characters who are nothing but gay.
Yeah, they love men so fucking much, but like that, right? Where sexuality and gender identity, since you can pick like.
Oh yeah,
either,
yeah. Gender ambiguity is like completely promoted.
Yeah,
basically.
But they're just like they exist in the world. They're not pushed. They're literally they just exist, and it's as simple as that. And that's why you never heard any real complaints about it. Never any real complaints, unlike Vanguard, right?
Vanguard, yeah, Vanguard. Yeah, because that's also because it's good.
Yeah, it is.
Like people don't understand that. That's what really annoys me about the extremes on both sides, where they don't seem to understand why people don't like it. or why, and rather so. I feel like there's people on the extreme left who don't understand why people don't like it, and then people on the extreme right, they don't understand that they don't like it for the wrong reasons. They don't like it because it's like the mere fact of what it is, rather than like that it's not being done well.
Yeah, the writing in this game is woke trash. That's why it's terrible. But I mean, it's just terrible, even if you probably liked woke.
Well, I think I've seen
Like,
people
it's just written terrible.
try to dog on Baldur's Gate 3, and then they just get dogged on themselves because it's just like, well, you clearly just oppose what's here because you're claiming that the writing's bad, but I mean, look, it's not.
Yeah.
Sorry, bub.
I think it is interesting how Veilguard is working its way towards like a Game of the Year position, despite it being heavily flawed.
For this year, I'm thinking because I know that I'm definitely forgetting a lot of stuff, but it's not like it's not completely out of the question. As like a contender,
and it's occurring like right near because it's gonna be starting to going on soon now, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, there's Black Myth Wukong, right?
Fresh.
Which is going to be interesting
yeah.
because that's like Chinese. So
yeah, so it'll probably win because a bunch of like fake fucking Chinese bots are gonna like.
No, it doesn't really happen. Oh, that's it. Astrobot could take it. Not Tekken 8. Not Tekken 8.
Been a pretty dry year, really, isn't it?
No, I swear something happened. Game releases. 2024. I thought there was something else pretty big, but I think you're generally not wrong. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League.
This year?
Yeah,
Fuck off.
Yeah. Apparently, crazy enough, it like sold pretty well.
Yeah, well, I think people were looking forward to it.
Helldivers
before it came out.
I think Helldivers is a genuine shot.
Helldivers.
Like genuinely.
Yeah. The only problem with Helldivers is
it would be really cool because
people actually grow to quite dislike it by the end.
Yeah, but that doesn't actually. It's I think Game of the Year has a lot to do with cultural significance as well, and Helldivers was such a huge deal.
Yeah.
Like its first couple months, and it's just
like
I
also think there's definitely cred to a indie game versus
Dragon's Dogma 2, but I don't know if that actually
really went under the radar considering what I think it is. Like,
well, I think the first one did too.
I barely even saw any. I've not seen any gameplay. I've just seen someone talk to like a huge bird woman.
I haven't seen any I haven't seen any real gameplay. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anyone really doing anything. Which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
I think what I saw from like what went wrong with Helldivers was literally Hellblade 2 or probably not.
What went wrong with Helldivers is that it blew up. It's the simple fact of the matter. Like everything they did, their patches were like they weren't perfect, but they were completely normal within the context of a team that doesn't really is like just patching their game to balance it better. And they fucked up as games do, but they had way more eyes than they ever fucking could have handled. Really,
well, I would agree if it wasn't like what I've heard about the patches is that it's been very like skewed towards nerfs, and I think people don't respond well to that in like PvE games because it doesn't really make sense. Star Wars. Wait, hold on, not Star Wars Bounty Hunter. There was that Star Wars game though. Outlaws. Star Wars Outlaws. I don't know. Ha! Look at the list. You got Dungeons and Degenerate Gamblers, which is a Yogscast game.
Nice.
Yeah, I know. Dustborn. Did you hear about Dustborn? You did.
Its writing was horrendous.
That's a game. Yeah. Core Keeper. I guess it did come out this year.
Did it? It says it comes out in it came out 2016.
I think I think a lot of this is not explicitly new releases. I think some of it has to do with because like Vampire Survivors.
Dude, Justice League.
You know?
I'm pretty sure that came out last year.
Yeah, actually, I'm not sure about that one, to be honest.
Not Justice League. Yeah, we'll kill the Justice League. I'm pretty sure that has been out for fucking ages.
Not well. It was last year, if anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. Star Wars. Wait a minute. Am I accidentally? What's going on here?
I mean,
Why am I
if you're just using Google, then you're being misinformed because that's.
I am on Wikipedia. Well, I know that I am on 2024, but it's still showing me things from 2023.
I mean,
Arc 2.
Scorekeeper got released on Xbox. Justice League, I think, got a DLC. It might be a bit liberal.
That's it. I think one of something that will absolutely be a contender is Warhammer. I think it's going to be a really cool game of the year where it actually might be. And the reason why I think it's going to be cool is because I think it might end up being down to Helldivers and Warhammer.
Also, though,
which could be really cool, like two big multiplayer games.
DLC for Elden Ring come out this year.
Yeah, let's think. I think
it did, right?
That can't. I think that's its own thing. It can't be in Game of the Year. I think DLC is its own thing. I think, and if it is,
it'll probably win that.
It will win. It will win.
Yeah.
Damn. Okay. God, if only Rogue Court came out this year. I don't know if they would ever be in the ballpark. It's kind of annoying because it's hard to imagine why it would and also why it wouldn't at the same time, if you know what I mean.
I mean, the only roguelike that's ever done anything like that is Hades.
Yeah.
The only roguelike that when it came out, everyone was like, yo, and played it and became like a game that everyone talked about.
I think Hades 2 technically is still wouldn't be able to be in the running as well. I think because it's early access, right? I think I assume that's how it works. I assume early access means, it's not done yet. Literally. Yeah. Well, actually, you know what's weird? It's not done, but you can also finish it though. I'm pretty sure you can fight Kronos, the final boss, but there's still not all of. I think this could be complete bullshit, but I'm pretty sure it's actually what's in between isn't completely done. I don't know if that's true though, because I know in the last update
added the variables or so on and so forth.
Well, they added Olympus in the last update, and you actually fight through Olympus, I think, or I don't know if it's another hub or something. But I think that's actually. I imagine that's what a lot of people were imagining. Hades 2 is a game that, God, I'm okay with the fact that I can't play it because I don't want to play it in early access. I didn't play Hades 1 in early access. I played it when it's completely done, so I don't really have a desire to, jump on board before it's done.
Yeah. Well, there goes all of our talking just before the podcast. That was good.
What do you mean before?
That was good. Oh no!
I'll put in a skip prompt. Oh, do you remember and I mean remember. I mean remember because I swear it's not a thing anymore. Just the little pop up speech bubbles that you could make for YouTube that videos would have. Do you remember these?
Yeah, they got rid of them.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just making sure because they had. There's no way they hadn't been gotten rid of, right? No, there's no way because I haven't seen them in years.
Yeah, but, and other stuff as well. I'm pretty sure. Well, actually, I think the things in the top right corner that link to a different video that they want you they'll mention it, and then it'll appear in the top.
I'll tell you what.
Top right.
I'll tell you what. I think
that's still in there.
I'll put a comment, but I think for that because that's literally 13 minutes, I will actually edit in a prompt. I'll put in a thing, skip to 13 minutes for the actual start of the show. That being said, I genuinely had a completely belligerent tangent I wanted to include anyway, just to pad it out, which was about Baldur's Gate.
Oh, good.
Only because I couldn't be bothered to not talk about it on the podcast because there's no reason. It's not really very smart of me to do this. It's just a quest I was doing, which was to do with finding a lost child in Baldur's Gate, which. Have you done this? Because I know you haven't done literally everything, but this is obviously And you know what happens, I guess, or is Captain? Is that name actually Captain Grizzly? I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I was all ready to like talk to you and complain about this quest that not forces you, but kind pushes you into killing this woman who is clearly just either actually does have a lost child or is just like ill and delusional. And like this is kind of a fucked up quest, you know. This woman, this captain's kind of fucked up, right? And then she said like the line, which was like, "Oh, I've missed you, Petal," and my face just sunk. I was like, for fuck's sake. I kind of expect. I mean, because I knew that there was something to do with hags, and to be honest, I expected it to be Ethel, but I didn't know it was going to be this because this wasn't inherently tied to the hag like hunters.
Yeah, there were two different like ways to bump into it. All right, like because I think you did bump into the victim
yes.
earlier, right?
Yeah, I bumped into Mayrina again, and I was like, well, there's a similar situation where when I saw it was Mayrina and that she'd been tricked again. My face sunk. It's like, this stupid bitch. I cannot believe this.
Yeah.
It's like, wow. How'd you get into this situation again? And then obviously, yeah, I don't know how that goes. Because I literally just got into an encounter where she just basically sets the entire like inn, like the entire like inn staff is like her
Red Cat.
like fucking goons.
Pirate Red Cats.
Yeah, I've just got into that encounter.
Have you prepared?
Sorry?
Have you prepared?
Prepared.
Well, do you remember when you talked to the previous victim woman? She mentions that there's books about witches that she has, and you can read them. Because if you haven't, then you will pay the price.
Great.
So,
yeah, no, I haven't.
But that is, an example of a game that's just so well written. It is just
it's got good lore.
Really fucking good.
Got lore, and we're going to be talking about lore. That's also, by the way, a teaser for the upcoming episode of feature. No. I mean, well, feature feast. I don't know if anyone remembers those, to be honest.
I barely do.
They're the kind of video that you can't really do without actual preparation, I think, because they were just so scatterbrained. It's like, I can't see myself doing this again unless it's like prepared, and that would make it potentially more of like a solo venture anyway. Because I know that I really want to do a Titanfall thing, but anyway, I mean, is there anything from Baldur? And by the way, not that I actually want to start feature thief again or anything like that, but at the same time, we do kind of have a bit of I guess a brainstorming playground as far as road core is concerned, because I think something as well that made these videos a little bit unenthusiastic was the growing technical debt of Deep Rock and knowing that there's not much room for anything big anymore. But road core's obviously such a playground. So, just off the top of your head, Baldur's Gate 2, Deep Rock / road core.
I think
anything. Dome of Invulnerability. I mean, we got that.
Yeah.
There's always these weird little parallels that you find between. There's literally, you can find the kind of parallels, though, I think, between literally every game, to be honest. Like, somehow.
The Dark Urge dwarf who murders all of his teammates. I think that'd be fun. No. I hope beyond hope, because I really I'm not sure how viable this is or how likely, because of what they've how they are. I hope that there is, with like the equipment, the special equipment you're gonna have, or the special abilities that you're gonna have. Right, we're still assuming that technically. Won't be long now until we might have a better idea on all that. But I really do hope that there is more fantasy stuff, like in said special equipment. Maybe once it charges up enough, you can get a great big battle axe, right? And then it like cleaves through enemies like really fucking well, for like a limited time, stuff like that.
Well, yeah, I think melee is definitely something to think about because I'm still pretty sure they're like pretty dead set on at a baseline. This game is a shooter genre, but you're also tapping into roguelite or roguelikes, which necessitates
variation
a pretty
is key.
big diversity of abilities, and abilities is where like I mean, look, right. So the newsletter is something that I'm just gonna throw it out here. If anyone's listening from Ghost Ship, we are going to talk about it, right? Because as far as I'm concerned, the Ghost Ship Dispatch, by the way, this is promotion as well, right? Because I don't think anyone. It feels like no one knows about it. If you go to Ghost Ship's website, you can sign up for a newsletter, and it's only just started, by the way, or started back up after years. But there's stuff in there, and I'm not going to show any of it until I've gotten like permission. I don't know, and I don't know why I've really chosen this path, but I have. But anyone can sign up for it, which means anyone can read it. Therefore, I imagine anyone can talk about it. And in there is some actual concept art of like some rogue core stuff, and there's like an ability. Well, not a dwarf is using it, but there's something that's happening where a creature is using like a gravity slam on a dwarf, and that's got a little bit, first, not that stuff is completely absent. We do have weird shit like the Azure Wield stuff, which is already kind of magical,
Right. Like, I think gravity manipulation is both like magic and like as sci-fi magic as you get. Because fantasy doesn't normally fuck with gravity, right? That's like not even a word, probably.
In fantasy, but, well, you do have telekinesis or like slam kind of attacks.
I guess, but like increasing the strength of gravity is not often, or like levitation. It's like point is not that big of a thing, but in sci-fi, gravity manipulation is quite common. I think because obviously in space it changes.
In space.
So you're kind of, I don't know, you're looking at a bit of a hybrid there, I think, of this Glyphid has, for all intents and purposes,
definitely not Glyphid.
Magic ability. He is spewing gravity inverting liquid or substance or of some variety. So that is, I think, a good sign, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing though where if it actually makes it in, which I hope it does, and you see it in game, right? I think there's definitely an expectation set there. It's like, can I do that to them? Yeah,
like a grab grenade. You throw it, area gets sent up in the sky and then drop back down.
Yeah, and obviously that's like
basically just the result.
That speaks to the kind of things that they really need to take advantage of. The fact that they are working from the ground up. Basically, it's just like the enemy ragdolls. I really hope they were somewhat prioritized because it gives you so much freedom with shit you can do. With like abilities and things like even just weapons. If there's a gun, like the concept of an air cannon, like a thunder gun, and how like I don't know, that's some. No, I'm sure we brought that up as like a driller primary idea or something, right? And it's like, well, you'd have to like come up with a way that it works without actually like sending enemies flying, because we kind of just can't do that. And I really hope they take the opportunity to like put that kind of functionality in place. It's like, no, we actually can send creatures flying without them having to be dead. I really hope that's a thing, because it's some of the best shit, really, actually, when I think about it. To be able to send things flying. I mean, obviously, you hope that they would be dead as well, but that's not inherently the point. I just want to send something flying. I can imagine it being pretty funny, using telekinesis. Right, just imagine on a grunt and it's sort of just flailing as it's being held in the air, and then you just throw it away from you. It makes me realize how magical Mass Effect is.
Yep.
The biotic stuff is just spells.
Oh.
Yeah, it really is.
It's magic.
Yeah. I mean, I was actually giving some serious thought, though, for some reason, to like those kind of ideas. Like, Baldur's Gate stuff, right? And I thought of Disintegrate. But that's like a pretty common concept, which is like when something's within a certain threshold, it kind of just dies from this attack, right? Which, you got that in RoboQuest, even. And I think it's like 5% or 8% or something for like common enemies, and it's just called Shutdown. And I think what I'm getting at there is Rocore needs to have needs to have all this stuff, like this extremely wide variety of stuff that would really break, what you expect from Deep Rock, which is very much so not in the vein of these kind of like abilities at all. And yet, like, it needs to be able to be a pretty full-on roguelite with the insane amount of variety of like weapons and abilities that you have, and yet still feel like like a Deep Rock game at the same time. And that sounds tough, man. That sounds pretty scary. But I'm saying that's like a very simple like twofold balance. That's all Rogue really needs though. That's like that should be the core concept. Is it's something that is a true like roguelite that stands up with the best of them, but is still definitively a Deep Rock game. It sounds simple, but I think those two things are the most important things that will basically make sure it's a great game.
I really hope that they're aiming more. Well, I can start with what I hope they're not aiming for. I hope they are not looking this as a roguelike Deep Rock game, and more like Deep Rock, but as a roguelike, but more as like a roguelike game in the Deep Rock universe. So like it really is like, roguelike first, Deep Rock second, rather than Deep Rock first, where they prioritize the rules and logic and the feel of Deep Rock, and then just tack on a roguelike system after. I hope that it's
Well, I think you have to assume that that's like inherently not going to be the case because of the fact that it's its own game, right? So, as in that would have been the case if it was what it was originally going to be,
sure.
DLC
but then
Deep Rock.
Yeah, but it's not like they realized that it was a bad idea, like conceptually. It was just that like DLC did it a disservice, right? It wouldn't have been able to go as far as they wanted it to. It would have like bloated the game more than they would have wanted it to. Like they still didn't. I don't think it ever would have required a change of concept as far as like prioritization in the roguelike system over the same feeling as Rock Galactic.
I think no matter what they're going for, it's still going to lean more towards what you want than the other option, because as a DLC it would have been inherently tacked on, but it's just like it. But now being its own game, it's inherently built from the ground up. Same engine, same universe, probably almost exactly the same art style, but it's still built from the ground up.
One of the worst things I think you could still within like the best case scenario of we get the game and it's good. The worst condition or worst state of the game that I'm fearing the most is that it could have just been a DLC. Like if I'm playing it and I'm like, this is clearly a DLC turned into a game.
Yeah.
AKA,
I think that's really difficult to happen. Go on.
Rainbow Six had.
Yes, I do.
This was before I even played.
Well, wasn't that literally the case?
Like a zombies mode, basically, with an infection, so on and so forth, and people fucking loved it. Loved it so much that they brought out a game with just that in it. That's the game, and then no one fucking played it because it was just that game mode that they had in Siege turned into an entire game, and it was completely empty.
Yeah,
and then
this is like actually a genuinely cool,
and it's been abandoned.
It's actually a genuinely cool point of conversation that could easily like spiral, which not necessarily a problem with that. But you think about like COD, right? I mean, obviously, if you look at the example of Siege, it makes it seem like a bad idea. But COD Zombies have been around for so long, it's surprising that it's not its own thing almost. It actually is on mobile. There is a mobile COD Zombies game, and it's just like a collection of all of the Black Ops, like 1 and 2, I think.
COD. And they probably couldn't tack on the zombies to that because I imagine it was enough on its own.
It's almost unbelievable that stuff's on mobile.
I don't understand the mobile urge that game companies have, but I think that's a different.
I don't understand the mobile urge that anyone has, except to play like I don't know, piano tiles.
Yeah, I know, but it's like I look at my mum, and she's like she's just a person. Works all day, gets home, and then has time before she has to then like eat dinner and go to bed. And in that time, like, if she doesn't have a console, which I think a normal person kind of doesn't have a PC, even more normal people, like even a bigger gap, they just have their phone. And so then to pass the time, they play on their phone. And that is why the phone market is like fucking huge, right? It's why they make so much money.
Yeah.
But
I feel like that cannot extend to games that are not originally made for phones.
Yeah, I don't understand like why they think that my mum's going to suddenly start playing COD on her phone, or COD Zombies in that, and stuff like that. I think it's weird that they think it translates, but I think sometimes it does.
Yeah.
So
well, I don't understand liking mobile games, right? But I do understand why you wouldn't want to play Candy Crush on your console. You know, why you would rather play it on your phone, and then therefore why you would rather play Call of Duty on your console than your phone.
Yeah, but it's just if you don't have the alternative. But if a dude likes COD, right, he's gonna have it on his. He's gonna have a console, right, or a PC. He's not gonna play on his phone.
If a dude likes COD, he's gonna go fishing.
The only time I remember when it came out, we were in school, and I remember that people were playing it at school, even though we weren't supposed to have our phones out. Still did because kids.
I didn't.
But, no, you wouldn't. You never did anything.
Except that one time. You never did anything.
You just put your DS in, played Mario fucking Paper.
No, it wasn't Paper Mario. No.
No, Luigi.
I wouldn't stoop so low.
Shit.
That's not really fair. Paper Mario is cool.
They're literally the same games.
Yeah, but they look different.
Mine does have Luigi as well.
Yeah, but they look different.
Barely. With the DS, you can't fucking tell anyway. It's so small.
Yeah. Okay. Whatever. The point is, I don't think there's any way that Rogue Core is going to feel like DLC. Because I don't think it would have taken this long. Right? It wouldn't have taken this long to figure out what it's gonna look and feel like and be. If it's gonna end up feeling very similar to Deep Rock. You know? I just don't think, and that's what I'm hoping for. I should probably mention not once again, but mention the fact that last episode I did say that we wouldn't do another episode until the On the Horizon stream. And I also said no matter how long, but I think enough's happened for like not that this is going to become an extensive episode, but still, I did lie, not knowingly, right? Not knowingly. But, I think to see anything that's just going to clearly like that concept art, for example, I showed you, that doesn't inherently dispel the idea that it could end up still being very similar to Deep Rock, right? It's not inherently. Which is why...
in fact, the way that they drew the dwarf as he got like ragdolled into the air looked very Deep Rock.
Yeah, well, you see, that stuff will definitely be very similar. I mean, they're still going to feel like dwarves and that kind of thing, but I think I just want to see whatever we see, whether it's gameplay or screenshots or both, is just things that very clearly outline how it's going to feel, and therefore that it's going to very clearly look and feel quite different. Because I think that's definitely up there in terms of like one of the most important things. Is it looking and feeling different? Because it will definitely be a bad feeling if it's similar, like if it feels like a DLC. But I just don't see it happening. I just don't.
It's also, I don't know, the fear of that it will have a lot of eyes on it immediately, right? Like, so it's really got to hold up to that, like, which is another concern, which I think we'll have to see, like, on this stream, right? Because I think at this point we can safely assume that they are they're going to do some gameplay. Because you said it yourself, right? On a stream recently, they said that what they're working on right now is like the beginning bit, right?
I think it's the first 5 minutes or something.
Yeah. But so they can do it on the stream, or probably at least have it recorded for the stream.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The idea of like the first 5 minutes would make perfect sense, and I think we've already, based on that I guess at this point quite old bit of like information, but it still, you know, technically hasn't been like you know, changed or just like disproven, anything like that. The idea that the flow of a run in a general sense is that the first stage is like probably the most different, where you basically reach a wall in the like under the ground, basically. That's like the wall between sort of the hoxies that we're used to and like the grey out zone or whatever, or like the mantle or something. I still think it's literally the perfect setup for like a gameplay segment. Would be that first stage, literally leading up to the wall and then like breaking through it, and then you like break through the wall and then like, you know, the title comes up. That would be the perfect like extended like gameplay trailer.
True.
It's like a like 10-minute thing.
Depending on what they were referring to, when they said the first 5 minutes, it could also just be the tutorial, right? Because that would obviously be the first 5 minutes of loading up the game. Right. That could be what we see.
Yeah, it could easily be.
Unlikely,
well, I mean,
because it wouldn't be as juicy. But that would be like, I don't know, it's equally informative, but maybe a bit too much. Because I assume, honestly, I expect the feel of the game to be basically the same, right? Like
moving around
whenever it
and
comes
just
to console,
shooting an
like
average
left
weapon.
trigger being pickaxe, right being the probably there's not going to be any aiming in. That stuff I completely expect to carry over.
Yeah.
Because I think
On the
ultimately
topic
it's
of
very
aiming
unique
in,
to
though,
Rock in a good way.
on the topic of aiming, definitely no ADSing, like in a general sense, but I do want them to be able to like branch out to scoped weapons, though. I definitely want
I think
snipers.
As like abilities, if you get what I mean. Like if you enter a state, a mode where you're knowingly not able to use the pickaxe, that would allow zooming in, right? Like, if we are to assume, because what my thinking is like, what are the bumpers in Deep Rock?
Oh god, hold on. Left
pinging,
bumper is the laser
right?
pointer. Yep. Right bumper is grenade.
Grenade. Okay. I mean, it's probably going to be grenades. So right bumper might still be grenade.
Well, you see, the thing about grenades that's kind of weird. I have like a weird like, not memory, but like idea of games that have like replaced grenades with the general concept of like abilities and utility stuff.
Carnage is Wonderland.
Well, maybe, but I don't. Yeah, maybe.
In Borderlands, the grenades got switched.
Yeah.
It's literally in the DLC. Like,
that's an example.
Lightning bolt.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I like that.
Yeah, I mean, grenades.
So I'm not sure, but chances are, console, those will probably end up being power buttons, or they're going to go back to, you know, just the D-pad system, which I guess for PC is probably like the numbers 1 to 4. I assume.
Yeah, it is.
And where you kind of, that's just how you select them. It's that you select them like you would, you know, your utility and mobility tools.
Mm.
But there's still a lot of questions which I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I mean that's why I think that like recap stream is actually an interesting idea.
It would reveal so fucking much. Even if it doesn't like actually reveal much, really, it wouldn't have to. If we just see like a single run, would learn so much. Not like a single run, like a single floor, room, encounter, right?
God, you're
like
not gonna, you guys aren't ready for what we would do to that footage.
Yeah. Every micropixel will get an hour-long podcast each.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
You
that would
realize how interesting the fact that this is like the color light gray instead of dark gray. Do you understand how fucking important this is?
This Glyphid Grunt's right middle, like left tooth is chipped. Why?
Yeah.
And it's like just like a very simple design decision where all the Glyphids have like dynamically chipped teeth. They could just have like randomly
like
chipped
armor
teeth.
is like slightly dented, and it's like, well, you can't help but notice that this
cool,
Glyphid, his third leg's armor is actually only half on. Like, what does this mean? Is there dynamic armor breaking in the game? Like stuff like that.
Well, I mean, there is in Deep Rock. There's dynamic armor breaking.
Yeah, but even within,
Dynamic armor
beyond...
formation, though, like
Yeah,
where the glyphids kind of all look a little bit different, because that's the kind of crazy level of weird shit that games no game's really expected to do that unless it's like the concept of the game.
Yeah.
Like nothing does that. That's fine. It would be awesome, but no. Like for every enemy to look slightly different. It's because there's the Pokemon though, Spinder. Do you know Spinder?
Not personally.
Spinder is like just this weird fucking panda with like spirals for eyes, but it has like a dot, like a red spot pattern.
Oh yeah,
it's different on literally every Spinder ever conceived in Pokemon. The only example of them being the same, right, is if you were to watch the same episode of the anime more than once, right? Every Spinder that anyone has ever found in a Pokemon game is completely different, I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
I don't know. And you can find like every variety, like there's one with like a penis on it, for example. Because it just the spots managed to put themselves in that position. But obviously that is very simple. That's very basic texture work, and I reckon it probably wasn't the case in like the earlier pixel-based ones, though. There probably were repeats. Either way, it's a thing. It's definitely a thing.
Yeah. But yeah. So give Glyphids a dick, I think was Harry's goal there. Was the message.
Well, you saw right through it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well done.
I knew it. Got my eye on you, Harry.
Because I can't stop thinking about.
All right.
Esports.
You don't think about esports.
Because before we get to the actual the newsletter itself, let's talk about esports.
We have to.
Well, not really. Not really, but it was still kind of cool.
Yeah, this was the thingy, isn't it?
Nice.
The thingy.
Yeah, the Deep Rock Ultimate Survivor Championship.
Who won?
I don't know.
Why would you bring it up? What was the goal, if not to mention that?
The goal is that it's part of that stream schedule, and that's the basic thing that should probably be mentioned, because that was kind of cool, if quite quaint. Although you did say when I showed it to you, you were like, you did say this. I know you often forget things that you say, but you said about how this might literally be the newsletter. You did say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think probably when I said that, it was already out, I would imagine.
I think it probably was, actually. But yeah, they basically put out a stream schedule, which was well, obviously, 9 days ago now, because it was a stream schedule for November, which was really cool. The only reason it was, useful is because it had, on horizon date in it, That's the only reason it was actually useful. But it was still just a cool example of... You could say the kind of thing we want to see more of, but also, just the kind of thing you actually want to see continued, And I did mention when I made a video about it, it was this is a thing that I would assume the precedent to be set here is that there would be a schedule every month because they're going to find a way. No.
Oh.
No. But they're going to find a way to have some kind of stream that's worth pointing out on the schedule at least every month. But then I thought, it's literally the next 2 months are the most reasonable to actually not have a schedule for, because they're so fractured by the end of year holiday.
Yeah.
So you can almost imagine them not bothering with a schedule, because it's how would you have to go through, what loops do you have to jump through to fit in an actual interesting stream in both December or January, It gets easier though in February when you can put the anniversary stream on there, right? But then it's so basically Do you think it is actually the precedent? Because it's precedent, not precedent. But do you think the precedent they're trying to set is that there would be a stream worth talking about every month, or if it's just like it's just to cover
Maybe it's
bases
just
and just
saying
to
this
be
month.
more informative, almost? Whether there's
This is
whether there's something notable or not,
They just wanted to like step it up this month, just because they haven't done anything in a while. That's my interpretation.
Yeah, and also because
Guilt as it may.
yeah, and it's also good to start off on like a good first impression, which is a schedule that includes something like an on the horizon, right? That gives it some gravitas, some gravity, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, let's not talk about esports. It's no surprise that the first example though of Deep Rock Galactic esports did not come in the form of Deep Rock Galactic itself. Because how would it? Apart from the age-old tradition of speed running deep dives, but look, it wouldn't be the greatest thing ever. In fact, whatever the hell like kind of weird niche aside from just like getting all the overclocks, whatever kind of weird niche playing deep dives was filling has been completely usurped for me by Survivor anyway. Because they are essentially just deep dives in like a roguelike format, or like a Survivor format. You do go through like multiple stages, which is why I really like the ones where it's because the basic Survivor like mission is 5 stages long, but they have these things called biome masteries, which are like sort of like quite like meta missions where the reward is like a bonus to a certain stat in that biome, and if you're playing on it, and that's like a 10-stage dive, which is actually like double the normal, and it's pretty cool. I really like that stuff. And you also have like individual ones for like weapons, where it's just to basically just get a small upgrade to that weapon that you have on all other missions, and you only get to use that weapon during that run, but it's only 3 stages. Basically, Rocore amount of stages variety. Yes or no?
I mean,
would you want like an ultra long one? If you'll excuse the wording.
Well, I mean, just to take something way out of context, they alluded to the fact that they were thinking about endless mode, right?
Yeah.
In Rocore, not Deep Rock, because fucking never is going to happen apparently. But
even though an endless deep dive is the only like good thing to do with deep dives at this point. I just want to point that out. It will do something. Clearly, either way.
I am like thinking about varying it, but it's maybe less variables each time, or like variables depending on where you're going in, or like other stuff like that, right? And more, that might just be once you've finished the set like path, because that is very, very common. Basically, every roguelike has a set beginning and a set end. Like that is pretty usual.
Yeah,
right?
but I think it's one of the earlier like design tenets that they came up with was for there to be lots of different runs in Rocore.
Sure. But generally even in roguelikes that do that, right? Like Hades obviously doesn't bother.
No.
You got like the set floors. But in stuff like fucking RoboQuest, you've got your set start, and then you can pick any path along the middle way. There's like probably like, I don't know, 100 and something variations technically, like each path.
Well, I feel like when it comes to things with, you know what I mean? When it comes to things with variations, it feels like there's always like thousands at minimum. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I doubt it for like when it comes to RoboQuest paths, but it always feels like there's loads. But yeah, you're right. You always end up on the moon, which in Rocore you would expect to, always end up at where?
At the core.
Pardon me, at the core. That's right. I don't know why I had to burp there. That was annoying.
Disgusting creature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
So, I think it's more likely then that, that path will take as long as it takes, maybe there'll be a bunch of different biomes you could go through optionally or just casually.
Yeah, I
Like,
would almost
I think that's the thing
assume.
that some do,
I would
where it's
I
just
would almost be
randomized.
like I would almost assume that's like the main divider between the runs would be, do you do the run in this biome or this one? That's kind of it. And then like objectives could be kind of randomized almost, but you probably know what biome you're going into. Um Biomes are actually the thing, like, are genuinely environments are the one, maybe the thing I'm most excited to see, like, honestly. Because if the assumption is most of the game's going to take place in this completely different zone of Hoxie's, you would expect, like, a full range of new biomes. And them to be weirder as well. And it's like, that sounds crazy, assuming that's true.
I think I would also like to see redos of previous biomes.
Well, yeah, just like closer to the core versions, essentially. They would be updated, obviously.
Yeah and no, but like that specifically would be enough for me. That, like, say we do have the concept where you're not actually in the deep part on the first stage. It's just the I don't know, magma place. It's just that, but them doing it again, and it's just like, they basically approach all previous game modes with the, like, now sense of, map making, and whatever changes would need to be made to actually allow it in real core. And I think that alone would be cool. But yeah, I think also deep versions would go pretty hard, right? Like,
yeah, I do like, because obviously, in Deep Rock, it just implied basically that the magma core and the glacial strata are like the ones that are somehow closest, which obviously makes the least sense for glacial strata, but they are inherently closer. For me, it would be far more interesting if they were to, like, essentially not retcon that, but do away with the concept that the other biomes can't be closer as well. I don't want them to be married to the idea that obviously you would imagine it would change once you break into the core. I think it's going to completely go away and become like fucking weird, right? But at the same time, I think they should open themselves up to the possibility of every biome is allowed to exist like at any like proximity to the core. Like it doesn't make any sense really, but for like Hollow Bow to be right next to the core just as much as Magma Core can be, but there would still be very obvious differences between Hollow Bow there and Hollow Bow above. Maybe this Hollow Bow doesn't have red vines. Wouldn't that be crazy?
Yeah, maybe the parasite in the Hollow Bow, like, hasn't actually worked its way that deep yet.
Well, yeah, exactly.
And it's actually just what the bow used to look like down there. Like, flowers everywhere and growing beautiful.
I mean, that would be the really fucked up way to go with it, though, right? Is that's when you get through the wall, is where they're still all the same biomes, but they're all in like their ancient form.
Yeah, like fresher.
Which is why you can't go to the salt pits or the dense biozone because they're just full of water. And then what the fuck is the radioactive exclusion zone?
It would be what it used to be before it got nuked.
Exactly. You're going to have complete freedom. It's just a new biome, basically.
And then I don't know. I think there's a lot of cool stuff that could be done with that idea. But I think that's the kind of stuff that is perfectly viable eventually, right? That's when they're adding diversity and more layers onto the cake, which is not something you do on launch, really. Like, you've got to bake the cake first, right? And that's what they're doing at the moment.
Yeah, you also got to break some eggs first, too.
Well, they have broken eggs.
Break the eggs into the pan, watch them fry.
Deep Rock die.
Yeah, that is actually the breaking eggs to make an omelette concept, isn't it, though?
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird because it's just like, well, yeah, obviously you got to crack some eggs. That's like, I don't think you're actually losing anything by cracking the eggs, but in the metaphor you are. That's the point of the saying. It's kind of a stupid saying, to be honest.
Yeah, no one touches eggs that much.
No, I'm not like sad that I lost the egg because it's there to make something out of it, So I wouldn't really call Deep Rock an egg.
I'm not fine.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
I tried a quiche the other night, and it wasn't great.
Okay.
But then my mum, who liked quiche, tried it, and then she said it also wasn't great. So I guess I had a bad quiche.
Yeah, quiche is fine.
Yeah, but that's got eggs in it. That's the moral of the story.
That's the moral of the story. You got to break a quiche to make it an egg.
You got to break a quiche to ruin your dinner.
Anyway, we got well, the thing about the newsletter is it's a pretty short segment really that's I think relevant now because a lot of it is just like fun stuff or going over stuff that's just the actual like events like obviously like Halloween and the tournament and things like that. However, there is a short road course segment, and short as it is, it's still something to go on. So I'm gonna go to the toilet, and when I get back, we're gonna dive right in to what may or may not be like illegal information. It's not, but still feel a bit weird about it. We're so back.
Yeah.
It's so over.
What
We're
were
so
you going
back.
to do before you said?
Probably start a podcast.
We'll start on one of these days.
One of these days.
I know we always talk about starting your podcast, but one day.
I love how obvious it is that we probably would suck at like an actual just general conversation podcast. Like genuinely.
Yeah, that's why we don't do one.
Really? Anyway.
Yeah.
Like, so basically the reason why I haven't actually brought up the newsletter before is because I didn't know that it had actually been the first issue would come out. And that's because I stopped checking my emails, right? And do you think it made sense? Because it was taking a while. And when I first heard of it, Aaron literally said, like, next Monday. I'm wondering now if he actually said next month, you know, or meant to. But after, like, finding out that there would be an actual on the horizon this month, can you almost see why I started to just expect it to just not happen, like, this year?
Oh, completely unreasonable.
What?
Apologise.
I'm sorry, Aaron.
No, to me.
No. No, I'm not going to apologise to you.
Apologise for your wrongdoings.
What I do apologise for is how actually cool some of this is. So let's just actually go through it. I'm going to try not read it verbatim because if I were to actually get permission to make the videos, that's kind of what they would be anyway. But as it stands, yeah. So I don't think the number 5 minutes had actually been brought up explicitly, but they've been recently looking at the first 2 minutes of the game, and that's the cool thing about it. Basically, it goes over literally what they've been thinking about and doing within the last month as far as roll call goes. So it's about like what happens as right when you start a run. So I don't think this is tutorial either. So for example, there's an experiment with having players start with no weapons and having to like just scavenge for weapons like to get like before it really starts, which is something they doubt they'll keep, and that makes sense, right? We talked about it yesterday. That's not how it should be by default.
No, but sometimes,
yeah,
maybe every so often.
but why though?
Events or an alternate game mode.
But how is that an alternate game mode? It's just like you just don't start with weapons.
I don't know.
It fixed itself pretty quickly.
I don't like resurrection or something. Play as a dwarf who has fallen in the mines, and you have to pick yourself back up and scavenge like gear around, and then fight your way out instead of down.
Oh God, that would be.
It could be like a fail state maybe. It could be an optional mini game where you make it out with some of the loot. Where you just have to you get stripped of it, you find it spread around the cave. I mean, and then you have to make it out.
Hold on a minute there, because the mere idea of reversing a roguelite's run is kind of wild. That's revolutionary. But at the same time, if it makes sense for any roguelite to do something like that, it's a Deep Rock one. Because that's kind of what Extraction is anyway, when you think about it.
Yeah.
Which is why the question of how Extraction will work is definitely like kind of weird, because it could easily just be placed within the last mission. You could still backtrack, to the beginning of the final stage, or they could just go nuts with
What
it.
I think could be interesting, let's use the current zombies, for example, or just a comparison between old zombies and current zombies in Black Ops, right? In the, like, maybe instead of roguelikes being dying is how you end, no matter what, basically. Dying or beating the final boss is it. Those are the two options in a roguelike, generally. Which, that's like old zombies.
They're almost like both win states as well. That's kind of the idea of roguelike. Dying is still a
you
form of
either
progress.
die or you beat the final boss. That's it. That's the game. But in a world, in a universe where deaths don't work like that, really, and you have extraction as a main feature in your other game that's in the same universe and it's unlikely that like extraction will only be a thing at the very end of the game, like after you would have died like tons of times beforehand, and then eventually you would kind of stop dying. Maybe extraction is optional at the end of each segment, let's say, and you either gain more from leaving extraction than you would obviously if you died, or you lose less, if depending on how it works. You get what I mean?
Think it's definitely gaining more, because I would want it to be justification for having it so that no matter when you extract, you have to go all the way back to the beginning. Which means it becomes a longer extraction phase the longer you go on.
No. You saying you can go back through like the entire
Yeah, I know, because obviously you'd have to load through them as well, so it's not really.
Yeah, no.
It's not very kosher.
It's like we'll use Hades. Say like you reach Elysium and you like get your ass beat by the Minotaur on your own, and you're not gonna be able to beat the next two. Maybe you can extract, basically, and then doing that while you're still low, so it's not guaranteed. But doing that means you have a higher chance of making it out with your loot, and you keep more, or you gain a bonus for extracting. That kind of mechanic, or you have to beat the twins to allow yourself to leave. But then all you have to do is reach the beginning of Elysium to extract. You don't have to go through all of the other stages. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I think no matter what, extraction is going to be a part of it, because it is such an important part of Deep Rock, and so therefore it can be something that just really inherently sets it apart, right? Yeah, obviously you are making it more similar to Deep Rock there, but that's something that should be kept from Deep Rock, because not only is it a good through line, the concept of extraction and how extraction's great, but also it's such an inherent distinguishing feature of it from other roguelites as well. Like, no matter how it's implemented, the fact that you would have to extract, like, I do imagine it's probably going to be a case of dying is a failed state. I think dying will be a failed state, and that you will need to extract to actually succeed. If and actually get be rewarded for whatever you did.
There is actually an example that I forgot about, which does do this. Just does do it, and that is Cult of the Lamb. Basically, the roguelike part of it is you go you go out.
What do you mean the roguelike part? What is Cult of the Lamb?
Oh, I was playing it like a bit ago.
No, I didn't know it was a rogue. What?
Remember when we were looking at games and there was the Escapist, or like not Escapist,
the Survivalists.
Yeah, Survivalist for like £2. There was the other game I mentioned that I thought was co-op but isn't. Or it's not like online co-op. Remember?
Sorry, what are you saying? Because I am aware of what Cult of the Lamb is.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I just didn't know it had anything to do with. Yeah, I did not know. I clearly didn't know what it was. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's a roguelike based building thing. But the roguelike elements of it are you go out and gather resources, basically. and then you know, if you die out there, you lose like a bunch of the resources you gathered, like I don't know, like 10%, 20% maybe. And if you succeed or extract, you like don't lose stuff. And if you beat the boss, you gain bonuses. My point is not that I expect them to have resources, is that is an example of extracting benefiting you more than dying, basically.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it will be the same as Deep Rock. I
in
mean,
a
obviously,
roguelike.
yeah, I think dying will be a fail state. I think you will still get some experience and rewards, but I think you're going to have to extract to get the full, the full Monty. And I think that's why you're going to be able to extract, I think, at every stage. At like the end of each stage, I think you'll have the option, because I just think that's how it makes sense to work. I don't know why, but what you said,
if your build's not looking too good, you'll be like, nah, fuck that noise. And you like don't go to the next one.
yeah, and I would love that. But what you said about Cult of the Lamb, I really like that idea of you're building something up between each like run because you're collecting resources. And obviously, for a Deep Rock thing, that wouldn't inherently make sense. But I like that kind of thing because it's quite an extrapolation of that. But Mass Effect 2 is that kind of thing, as in what you're doing for the most part of the game is building up the means towards something, and I just got flashbanged by the idea of what you're actually doing in Rogue Core is constantly building up basically the resources that you need to do another type of run, which would be the actual like core, like dive or something like that.
Yeah, no, I if I were to make it into an idea, which I think I just popped into my head, like as you're getting the run, you are earning a source of energy, for example.
Yeah,
like,
fuel basically, Expedite.
Expedite. The more Expedite you get, you're slowly filling up like the ramrods, like.
You literally drive the ramrod into the core. Honestly, that'd be fucking awesome. And that's how it works. Like that, every now and then you get to do that core dive, and the ramrod just rams itself down into the crust and embeds itself in the core. And you come out, instead of using the drop pod, you just walk out the ramrod's front door, like front ramp, into the cave.
Yeah,
that'd be sick.
And the cave is like so big that the ramrod like isn't even like filling it, and like that's like the entrance to
just sticking out the wall.
The core.
Yeah,
but basically, yeah, something like that, and you would earn more or less depending on extracting and how far you reach and how many bosses you beat or something along those lines. Like after each boss, there's like a vault room after, so you'd earn like lots of Expedite.
I love vault rooms. I actually do. Yeah, like rooms are just dedicated to just like pick up all the shit you can. Yeah, it's always good. I think Borderlands is like built around that concept, basically.
Yeah.
Loot. Don't copy Borderlands.
Oh, I wouldn't hate loot.
You don't gain much from copying Borderlands, really except from like gun ideas,
Yeah. I think I would be like set aghast if like weapons had like rarities. I genuinely cannot picture that.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean, but it's also like it's so intrinsic to roguelites.
Yeah, but it's like I don't know. COD zombies, for example.
Well, you wouldn't have expected that to have weapon rarities, though.
No, I didn't. But it does now.
Yeah.
Weapon rarities, and then like the weapons have like attachments just on their own. They pick them. You can also make your own, but the point is that like I see Deep Rock is going to be a lot more, weapon upgrades more than it is going to be legendary tiers or like legendary or so forth. But it could be one and the same, right? The only a legendary weapon has like overclocks or something like that, right? Like
yes,
Epic would have up to tier 5 upgrades. And then like rare, uncommon, common, they would have like only like the lesser upgrades available.
Survivor is actually not even like it's not actually a bad template, or at least just something to draw on, because the way Survivor works, Deep Rock Survivor, the weapons don't have rarities. I mean, that's because you don't loot them either. You start actually you do at level 5, 15, and 25. You get to pick your second, third, and fourth weapon, but there's no rarity tied to them. Where the rarity comes in is all the upgrades that you get for them, which is individual stuff like damage and reload speed and that kind of shit. Overclocks are also implemented though, where weapons have their own levels that go up whenever you get an upgrade for that weapon, and it's at level 6, 12, and 18 for the weapons. When you get overclocks, you get one at 6, then 12, and then at 18 you get an unstable overclock. Which is why it's weird to me, by the way, that Survivor is only balanced on unstables, given that you have like a 3-stage overclock system. It would make most sense to go from clean to balanced and unstable, but it's just balanced, unstable. But either way, I mean, I do wonder if they'll adapt like the weapon levels idea from Survivor, because that kind of leads to how the weapons progress power-wise. Aside from just picking upgrades, there are like intervals where there are intervals aside from the upgrades where you get another upgrade based on its level.
That is intrinsically the Vampire Survivor likes.
Yes.
Right? Or Survivor
likes, yeah.
That is, which are similar to roguelikes. Let's not kid ourselves, right?
I mean, are they not technically a sub? Are they not technically a subgenre of it, or like a branch?
No, I don't think.
I think they are technically roguelites.
I don't think they are. You don't. I think the end goal is not the same, right? Like
Vampire Survivors.
The end goal
Vampire Survivors is a roguelike, apparently.
All right, so I guess if that is, then I guess it is.
You know what? Actually, that makes more sense. It certainly makes more sense for Vampire Survivors to be a roguelike than a roguelite.
Yeah.
I hate how similar they are.
Quite obscure, anyway.
Yeah, abstract. Yeah.
That's a good word, Harry. Yeah, I don't know. I think it would be weird to see like a legendary, I don't know, Sabata. And by weird, I mean I'm assuming that would thoroughly piss me off. But on the other hand, I think a legendary minigun would really tickle someone.
Well, that's how it's that's the idea behind it almost, though, isn't it? Like in RoboQuest, it was like, why did I get a legendary? I don't know what it would be. I can't remember what the shit weapons were. But then you get a legendary, I don't know, the Typhoon minigun or something. And it's like, oh, I'm glad I got that for legendary instead of something else.
Instead of the rapier.
Instead of the rapier, yeah.
Yeah, I think it has potential still, and I feel like they'll be willing to do more fun things like super duper rare like mythicals, and then like they would have 2 overclocks on it or something, and that would be like, you know, silly stuff. But I don't know. This is once again something so interesting and has so much potential, and there's so many questions behind it that will be revealed instantly as soon as we still see like footage of someone seeing a weapon in game and picking it up.
Honestly, the concept of weapon
that simple, and it would completely.
It's almost like no matter what they show, something like weapon rarity is something that will be immediately like confirmed or debunked, no matter what is shown. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so hard to avoid showing whether or not that's a thing in the game. I think if they didn't, they'd probably talk about it anyway. Which is why we're going to move on to the next part of this, which I actually am going to read verbatim, because that's the way to make it most striking to you, I think. So here we go. We're starting to get to the point where we need to get our law in order. Robert, resident law master, is writing internal drafts of law, and we're beginning to have to make considerations for how we justify game design decisions to fit in with the story of Rogue Core. What a paragraph. That's it, though. But
it feels like when a child starts like complaining about the price of things or something. Like they're growing up, they're getting out in the world, they're finally considering law in their fucking game. Like, one day I knew it would happen, but they grow up so soon.
I just think that first of all, I want to point out the use of the word story. That doesn't mean beginning to end narrative. Pretty much all games have a story, whether it's that or not, right?
Oh, I mean, it already has a story.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that that paragraph still clearly indicates that lore will be more important to Rocore than Deep Rock. And I think that's sexy.
Yeah, not only because of that, but also it might carry over.
You fucking episode. Well, yeah, if they're having to make considerations, like justifying design decisions based on lore considerations, right? That's the kind of thing that cannot not bleed over, because that means they're definitely considering consistency, you'd hope, as well, between the two. And I guess that would be like lore about, I guess, every aspect. I mean, I do wonder how deep it goes, if that means they're planning on there being like a pretty in-depth codex. Then she's like, oh, here's what the Reclaimers are, and then like spell that kind of thing out. I don't know if that's the route they're going necessarily. But I feel like roguelites, you either go down the road of having a run be like have a kind of narrative to it or not. I mean, it's almost hard to avoid. RoboQuest still does, you know, at least up to the point when you first beat it. And then Hades is like, that's like very, you know, dense, constant.
You haven't beat the game
story.
until you've completed the lore.
Yeah.
The story.
Yeah. Which is why, I mean, I imagine, just by the fact that you will have dialogue at all, right, from Mission Control, it's probably going to be a bit of a cut above RoboQuest level of narrative, to be honest. I just wonder if they're planning on something that it's like. I just wonder if they're planning something that goes across multiple runs. I think that's a dam that should be broken. Really, I want there to be like a Reclaimer like commander or something, or like who's like, or honestly maybe just even a bit more like ensemble cast like, where there would be a canteen, therefore there's a chef. You know. I would love that.
Yeah, I don't think anyone like physically, like you never see anyone in game that isn't like a robot, right? I think that's part of the appeal, or that's part of the vibe, right? That like you are isolated. That's already the case in like, you know, current Deep Rock, and that's just like running off of I guess like corporate isolation, right? That like no one really cares about you. But this is going to be literally isolated because you're at a fucking dangerous mission. But yeah, you would hear like, I'm thinking like on quest dependent down in the caves, like different characters have different reasons that, or things that they want you to do down there, right? Like,
well, exactly.
For example, if there is a chef, you're less likely to like meet them in a cafeteria, but more likely to gather like hidden meat, or like fauna that are growing around the caves for them. And that's so when you would have like that side quest appear or that quest appear or anything, or that's just in the cave.
And if that could be dynamic, where in general it's still mission control guiding you through, but if you make progress on, if there is some kind of quest system for like specific characters, and then you make progress on it in the run, that character still pipes up and it's like, and it says something to you, like how Borderlands does it essentially. You know, it can be any character talking to you at any time. But in the context of a run, it's still primarily mission control. But if you happen to do something that contributes to this thing, that other character might talk to you. A big one would obviously be like R&D, right? There's some kind of fucking nerd who's like asking you to recover like samples or some shit.
Yeah, but all like test stuff. I think I is how I could see it. Like, hey, there's this new
Dr. Zed.
Yeah, there's this new weapon we've been concocting. You'll find it in like a crate nearby. Can you like shoot like 20 course ball with it in the face?
It's literally exactly what the E-Tech mission is. Shoot 20 bandits with this E-Tech gun.
Literally, yeah. And then you do that, and then he's like, "Well, that was disappointing. We expected them to like instantly explode, but they just took a reasonable amount of damage. Back to the drawing board," and then that's like the mission.
Yeah, if you don't want to hire more voice actors, they can just all be dwarves still. I'm sure someone else at Ghost Ship can do a different enough voice.
I would fucking murder for like a diverse
look
cast of like fantasy creatures who play those roles.
Oh my god! I'm not
Like,
saying I
if that
don't
fucking
find.
chef is an orc, I will
Oh, for
literally
fuck's
send
sake,
them
Tyler.
all my money.
Don't think about that. That's not going to happen. Don't think about it. It's an amazing idea.
Well, they're paying more attention to the lore, right? They're probably starting to explore, are dwarves the only fantasy creatures in the universe?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not
That question
saying
might start coming up.
I'm not saying that I don't find his showmanship slightly irritating at times, but Aaron should absolutely be considered for doing a voice. Some like fucking literally like an in world like sports commentator or something like that would be perfect for him. I don't know how you would what the implementation would be for that, but some like fucking like crazy Mr. Talk type,
like floozy, kind
Who?
of just like someone who like clearly isn't taking the situation, which is very serious, anywhere close to serious. Is I think a role I could see him playing. Like I don't know, someone who just asked them to do silly shit, basically.
Yeah.
Say, hey, I think it'd be funny if you guys danced for like 2 minutes in this area. And try not to die. Yeah, basically.
That's just claptrap. I don't want a claptrap.
Yeah, you want a claptrap.
I hate claptrap so much.
You would love Aaron to be claptrap.
It'd be better than Jack Black.
Oh, that's a low blow.
Is it? Oh, so I guess it's low.
He's still not recovered, right?
Don't kick him while he's down.
Street red wise, like even though I think it's like it's over, like or no, it's not over. Like they've come out and said that they're still friends and that there's nothing there. But the internet just ran with it.
Well, I think it's also. I think it's. I think people.
Honestly,
I think the internet's wanted to for a while, and now they've finally been given like reason to like acknowledge his oversaturation.
Yeah.
Whereas before it was just like, oh yeah, people might say he's oversaturated, but we like it because we like him so much. And he did one thing that sort of tipped that, and now everything he does seems in poor taste. Like the Minecraft thing probably would have come off as charming, before, right? It's like, oh, Jack Black is going to make it. He's going to make it better,
Yeah, and he's just happy to be there. Like like even when the quality is like bad, like they're like, oh, Jack Black, he's gonna be like the only reason to see the movie. But now it's like that fucking shill. He stabbed his longest and best friend in the back just to play as Steve in this shitty movie. What a bastard!
That's why he did it. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Anyway, actually, you know what? I don't think talking about a very specific weapon is too interesting. But you mentioned he saw someone playtesting with like a bolter type weapon, like a heavy rifle. But that's just in case anyone needed to know that there will be other weapons in Rogue Core. But what's more interesting, about some of the questions they've been considering. I'm going to point out two. I'm going to use two of these. Should we do an endless mode? Do we have the bandwidth to implement that and make sure it's good? And what I said to you yesterday was, yes, they do, but it doesn't have to be on launch. In my opinion.
Wait, what is their answer to that?
They don't have an answer. It's just something they've been considering. It's just
right. But you don't know if they have that much bandwidth. I also don't know what that means.
I don't either.
Exactly. So it might not actually be possible. Which would be a shitty reason for like a new game not to get something, because there's already technical limitations. But yeah.
Endless mode's always cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how you would implement it if there's like a definitive endpoint, which is cool.
There's no better feeling / there's no worse feeling than playing a roguelike, getting a like 1 in a million build. Like, not only is it good, right? Or not only is it not just good, not only is it fucking great that you almost like instantly destroy the final boss, but it's also the exact way you enjoy playing the game, right? Like, not only whenever that occurs, it's such a precious moment. And it's then kicked in the shin by the fact you just instantly killed the final boss, and that's it. It's gone. Bye. Go back to the beginning, play with something you probably don't quite like using, and it's bad for the next 20 rounds, right? Until you get something alright again. like an endless mode is quite nice, even though eventually you will die.
Yeah.
Right, because I think the only game I think I can think of the roguelike that I played with an endless mode is Brotato.
But at least you get to see that ultimate
Yeah.
you build. You get to see it through to its limit, rather than just this defined point to end that
like,
you probably could have gone way beyond.
Like, yeah, like on Brotato, it's like you get to round 20 and that's it. It's done. Like that's the final. It's like 2 bosses that are hard and like a bunch of other stuff. But some of my builds, easy wipe, and I'm like, oh, just endless. Continue doing this, and then it absolutely like ramps up from there though. Like it's like probably like 25 is like probably like 2 to 3 times harder than 20. And then I'd get up to like 30 something with my.
I mean, I think it goes without saying that we want Rogue to be like conducive to that kind of thing, that feeling, right, of finding that build. You want that, but that also means that we're gonna want the same like workaround, that endless mode
since,
as well.
Like Deep Rock is a game where once you find that build, you can play it until you can never play that build again because you played it too much, right?
Well, that also speaks to how much control do we have over what we go in with as well, though.
Yeah.
You know, so, which is something we'll probably find out soon as well.
Yeah.
The pre-cum stage.
The fuck is your problem?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you should apologize.
I'm sorry. All right. The other thing that I want to bring up, which I think we probably talked about this last episode actually. They've been asking themselves, do we need glyphids in this game, or should it be new enemies only? Which makes more sense with the lore we're putting together. And there's lore brought up again, which is a really cool reason to consider whether or not glyphids should be in it. But at the same time, I don't know if it should get in the way.
There are 3 things that are really fucking cool from that question. First of all,
glyphids.
It means glyphids are very very much on the table of not being in the game, which is what we've kind of. We have either 2 thoughts, right? Is either they're in, but in the specific context that you're not in the deep core yet. Like I think basically we seem to be on the same side, or like they're thinking about our side of no glyphids in the deep. Right.
Yeah.
Like I think we like that idea, and
look at the season 5 tells you this aspect of the lore inherently with the core spawn existing and clearly having to literally be teleported from the core. Right. That tells you that they only live in the core. They don't live beyond it, which would imply vice versa, right, for the glyphids.
Yeah. I think it's also. I don't because they weren't considering lore when they were doing this, I assume. But the Stingtail and Spreaders were credited as being like deeper variants, right? They came from deeper within the planet, but are also glyphids. So there is the question of did they come from deep enough to where they could be in Rogue Core, or are they even still not deep enough?
Well, I think that's something that is easily explainable. Obviously, if they wanted it to be, kind of cheap, a bit of a cop out, but to be like, they're from deep, but they're not from the core, right? That's the answer if you want.
Yeah, no, I'm not. It's just more, if we do get any glyphids, maybe it's just those ones. Which I mean, that would be a fucking bold move.
Yeah. If you have, it would be. But if you have a core spawn that is essentially equivalent to a glyphid grunt, you don't actually have a different dynamic, right? You're not technically only bringing over the Stingtail and the Spreader, right? You still have a grunt equivalent. It's not like the only, sure they might be the only glyphids, but we still have grunts in one way or another. But yeah, the mere idea that the game could be mostly new enemies is definitely one of the most tantalizing and distinguishing concepts, like to separate it from Deep Rock.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of wild to think about as well. Like that
I
idea.
Think,
it tells you how much they're putting into new species. I imagine there being more new species beyond the core spawn, to be honest.
I mean, we're definitely going to be looking at. Well, it's interesting that you just mentioned glyphids. Like maybe you'll see some of the other ones, but we're definitely going to be looking at like at least 10 new enemies. when the game comes out, right?
Oh yeah, just to
Like,
like be the core spawn baseline as well, I guess.
yeah, I guess. Like, because I mean, depending on obviously how stages work, but normally, I mean, you have like 5 to 6 enemy types per aesthetically different stage. You get what I mean?
Uh, yeah, although I would say all grunts count as one type though, but yes.
Yeah, one enemy.
Yeah, grunts, guards, and slashers are all one slot, I think. Is that what
What
you're
are you
talking
saying?
about?
I'm not talking about. No, I'm not talking about deep rock. I'm talking about
Oh,
roguelikes.
okay.
Like, you're not got. There's not that big of an. I mean, it's not small, but it's not a huge enemy variety per height place.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. No, yeah, I see what you're saying. Like the expectation it doesn't have to be massive.
yeah, like if there's like 5 stages, we're looking at like 60. No, that's way more. Like
What?
maybe like 40 to 50 enemies. If there's like 5 stages, really, with like a different pool in each stage.
Oh
And
god,
then
that's
just a
cool.
couple for fun.
Yeah, I don't actually consider if that's what they're going for or not. I mean, that's not how they all work. Like RoboQuest, you still maintain like the lower level enemies all the way through. It just builds kind of, and sort of replaces
Yeah,
some, I guess. Like Hades is like a different enemy pool in every stage, but that's also only
yeah.
like
And I'm
4
thinking
stages to really build around as well.
the same with Bonfire Reborn, which I only really keep in mind because they mentioned it. That is
Yeah,
one
that's
that
fair.
they specifically have referenced in where they're kind of
Or
looking.
wasn't it
as
Gunfire
far as
Reborn and
roguelike.
Risk of Rain? Was it Risk of Rain?
Don't know.
Or was
There
it
was another
Rotato?
one.
Or that for Survivor? I don't know.
No, because it's not. I don't think it's one of them.
Or that for
Look, download
DRG
it.
Survivor, if I mean.
Yeah, but but yeah. So I don't know. It's interesting because this is probably what they were referring to earlier with the you know, law-based decision making. Like, we want to add Glyphids to the game, but law-wise, they shouldn't be there, right? They're running into that problem, right? Which I feel like we have a solution, right?
We have a
We
solution.
have a
I would say
solution,
have more
but
than one
they might
solution
not.
because you can just
They,
make. You can also make core glyphids if you want. Fuck it, go nuts.
yeah, but that's still a new enemy, but
I
all
know.
not an enemy worth adding because it won't be particularly unique. Like if we are assuming the core spawn we have seen is the grunt of Procore, it's a different level, right? Like grunts are nothing, right? They have no special abilities. They just kind of walk, hit, have no real remarkable armor, no real remarkable health, right? If we are assuming the same, like that position is now the core spawn who can leap massively, leaves pools of poison behind, is pretty fucking scary to be honest with you. Like if that is the baseline, it really kind of tells you that everything is going to be unique and interesting in roguelike. Each enemy is more important individually than in Deep Rock.
Almost
Because
makes it
I
a bit
assume
less of a
there will
horde
be a lot
shooter.
less. Yes. That's my assumption at least.
Well, yeah, because I wouldn't also because you think about it, even though games like like RoboQuest, you still have like AoE weapons and they're good in a lot of contexts. I wouldn't actually call RoboQuest a horde. Well, obviously it's not a horde shooter, but you know what I mean. You're never really in a situation where you're like cleaving through dozens and like massive clumps of enemies at the same time. RoboQuest is very even if it's the weakest enemies, it's still like one by one almost, one at a time still. Even if that is one shot, right? You're still usually only taking out one enemy at a time. You're not usually taking out like massive groups.
Yeah, and I'm thinking we might be looking more at each individual enemy is going to require a focus fire to deal with them efficiently. We could be looking at a game like that. which once again that would be a very differently feeling thing. I think it would also be
Yeah, I
interesting.
don't think they want to abandon the horde shooter entirely.
Maybe, but like obviously we don't know too much, but I feel like Helldivers might be worth bringing up because, as far as I could tell, Helldivers is very similar to Deep Rock, but they're definitely a lot more individual enemies are a lot more intimidating / powerful. It's from the little bits I've seen, right?
But then again, you're also like pretty big like armies of teammates. Not just 4 people in total, like at most.
Oh no, Helldivers is just 4 people.
What? No, I'm pretty sure it's like no. What? No, I don't think so.
Everything I've seen, I think it's only like groups of 4.
I think Helldivers is like loads.
It's just a co-op. No, it's just a co-op like Deep Rock.
One of us doesn't know what Helldivers is.
Agreed.
I think it's like really big, like war-like scenarios, Tyler.
Yeah, on the map.
On the map. Yeah, I don't know. I'm actually not. I don't 100% know. Like, yeah, I'm not too sure about that. Actually, I can't say. I can't say that I actually know.
Would have to ask, tell us.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think maybe because they're probably going to be. They clearly were. I mean, they played it when it was like a thing, right, on the streams. They clearly quite liked it, so we might see some inspiration here and there, one way or another. In like, I don't know, a horde shooter, but like all the enemies are quite tough. There's just maybe a slightly less of them, or you just need to be better and you have more of an arsenal. Deal with that. So we'll see.
And we will see.
Soon. Please.
Because I think that's where we're going to have to leave it before we start, I don't know, frothing.
Oh, I've been frothing for a while now.
I mean, there's foam coming out my fucking pores.
You have pores?
You have pores? You have... Wait, what do you mean pores? Pores.
Right, pores.
Pores. Pores with an R. Like my skin pores.
Wars. Wars never changes.
Pores never change. Alright, I think that's it.
So that was the Deep Rock Galactic Roll Core Survivor Baldur's Gate 3.
Oh yeah.
Hades.
RoboQuest.
RoboQuest.
Dragon Age. We brought up Mass Effect as well. Empire Reborn. Potato. Any other mentions?
I think it depends on how much of the previous conversation you recorded. But I mentioned Elden Ring. We talked about all the games of the year.
Black Myth Wukong. Stripbot. No, I didn't actually mention Concord. I didn't actually mention... No surprise.
Yeah, that was the conversations about all those things. If you enjoyed, why? Like and subscribe, but also
Why the fuck are you doing the outro?
Because I'm a professional person. We will be back probably next week. There's nothing in between, right? It's like then the next week the stream will be there,
and then we will
likely be live streaming our reaction.
Yeah, well, I say likely. I would have to.
Sky. I Skyped my thing last time. It's your turn.
It's your turn. All right. Before we go, let's get to I think there was a promise made about like prioritizing members' comments.
Yeah.
So
and also thanking our members.
Well, yeah, obviously thank you, Boxfoot Scoot, but we do have a comment from Boxfoot Scoot on the biscuit tier list. All right, let's go. Boxfoot Scoot writes in, I appreciate the reminder that you're from the inferior country and that American biscuits are still in fact superior to your sad pieces of plywood you call food. I, however, will agree that Simon's brainwashing over Jaffa cakes is very effective. So it's a bit double-edged, to be honest.
I'd say double-edged, more a sword, just attacking us. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a shame that the Americans have tricked themselves into thinking that their like cookies are in any way anything, right? Like they just they literally they're just like, you know, remember the SpongeBob episode where something happened and the Krabby Patties were being like printed and they were just this like goo
Yes.
painted like a
Of
Krabby
course I
Patty.
remember.
American biscuits are that, but the goo is just like sugar, just like a sugar mass painted like a cookie. But the sugar is also then not sugar; it is like glucose formula, and then that's what they consume directly into their
Ravioli,
bloodstream.
ravioli, give me the formuloli. Fuck.
Yeah. So, yeah, suck on those eggs.
Box
I mean, you would
scoop.
assume that us Brits know what we're talking about, since that's all we fucking eat. You Americans are busy eating like burgers and fries, which I mean, I had that last night. That was
I
nice.
would never eat
Actually.
those
Quite like that.
foods.
Nom nom nom. Um, what do American butter? Deep fried butter.
Mm.
You
Is
Americans are
that a
too busy
myth?
eating deep fried butter. No, it's not a myth. That is a thing at like fairs. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I saw it in The Simpsons.
Yeah, that's my source. Also, I think I saw it on like Instagram once.
Also, I saw it in a dream.
Yeah. And I don't know what else Americans eat. Probably fucking everything they can get their grubby little hands on.
They're not like Chinese people who fucking eat literally anything.
Oh, I don't think you can say that.
Of course I can.
We apologize, Master Xi Jinping. I am sorry.
China. Been chilling.
Bean chilling. Yes, they eat bean chilling. Ice cream.
Bean chili.
Yeah. Bye bye.
Yeah.